The wine glass slipped from my hand and spilled red wine all over my father-in-law's white shirt. The glass hit the floor and shattered. He jumped up, face red, eyes wild. Then he punched me in the face. Just like that. His fist hit my mouth, and I tasted blood. I couldn't move. I sat there, stunned. The room went silent. No one said a word. Not his mother. Not his siblings. Not my husband. I turned to him, waiting for him to defend me, to get angry, to stand up for me. Instead, he looked at me and said, "Apologize to my dad." That's all. Not "Are you okay?" Not "What the hell?" Just that. Then he said, "You have two choices, apologize or leave." So I stood up. My lip was bleeding. My hands were shaking. I didn't say a word. I walked out the door. It's been 2 weeks. I went straight to a hotel that night. He didn't call. He didn't follow me. The next day, he sent a text. No apology. He didn't mean it. He just snapped. "You need to apologize. Apologize for spilling wine, for being hit." I sat there, reading that message over and over. I couldn't believe it. I still wore the bruise on my face, and he was asking me to say sorry. I called a friend. She was furious. Told me to press charges. She even offered to come with me. But I froze. I didn't know what to do. I kept asking myself if it was my fault somehow. Was it really that bad? Was I overreacting? But the more I thought about it, the clearer things became. His father always looked down on me. He didn't like that I had opinions, that I worked, that I spoke up. He made comments in front of everyone, and my husband always brushed it off. "He's just old school," he'd say. "Don't take it personally." But I did take it personally. I felt it every time. And now this punch, this silence, this demand to apologize was the final proof that I never mattered to them. They didn't see me as part of the family. They saw me as someone who had to behave, stay quiet, say sorry. Not anymore. I'm not going back. I'm not texting him. I'm not apologizing. I did nothing wrong. That dinner didn't break me. It showed me the truth. And now I can finally walk away from all of it. He made me choose. Apologize or leave. I chose myself. I met him in college. We were young, happy, and full of dreams. We laughed a lot, traveled together, and shared everything. He made me feel special. We moved in together after graduation, then got married 3 years later. It all felt right. Everyone called us the perfect couple. But things started to feel different when I got closer to his family. From the beginning, they had their own way of doing things. Everything had to be their way. His dad was the loudest voice in the room. He acted like his word was law. He always talked like he knew best and made decisions for everyone. At first, I tried to be respectful. I thought maybe they just needed time to get to know me. But it didn't get better. His dad didn't like the way I spoke up for myself. I had my own job, my own money, and I didn't wait for anyone's permission to make choices. He didn't like that. He said things like, "A wife should follow her husband," or "You talk too much for a woman." He'd laugh after saying it, like I kept telling myself things would get better. That if I just gave it more time, they'd come around. But they never did. In fact, the longer I was around them, the more they tried to change me. Not directly, but in small ways. Little comments, little looks. Things that made me question everything about myself. Once, I offered to help clean up after dinner, and his mom smiled and said, "It's okay, you're not used to housework yet." I had been living on my own since I was 18. I'd managed a full-time job, paid my bills, cleaned, cooked, handled everything. But in their eyes, I was just some silly girl who didn't know her place. His dad was worse. He'd say things in front of everyone and laugh like it was all harmless fun. "You let her wear that?" he asked my husband once when I came to dinner wearing jeans. Or, "She's a bit too opinionated, don't you think?" When I told my husband it bothered me, he shrugged. "He's testing you. That's how he is with everyone." But I didn't see him talking to his sons like that. Just me. There were moments when I thought maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I was making too much out of nothing. That's what my husband made me feel. Like I was always blowing things out of proportion. He'd say, "You're reading too much into it." Or, "That's not what he meant." I started to doubt myself more and more. Slowly, I stopped speaking up. I smiled when I didn't want to. I laughed at things that weren't funny. I stayed quiet when I wanted to scream. I thought that was what love meant: compromise, patience, understanding. But I was the only one doing it. There was a day I'll never forget. I had gotten good news at work, a promotion I had worked so hard for. I shared it at dinner, excited. His dad said, "That's nice, but now you'll have even less time for your husband." Everyone laughed. I laughed too, but my chest felt tight. That night, I cried alone in the shower. That was when I started to see things clearly. Not all at once, but slowly. Like fog lifting. I saw how little space I was allowed to take up. How I had been made smaller and quieter and softer to fit into their world. My husband didn't hit me. He didn't yell. But he let his father do it with words. He let his silence speak for him. He chose comfort over standing up for me, again and again. I didn't want to admit it, but I was already alone in that marriage long before anything broke on the outside. I was always trying to keep things together, but it wasn't just about keeping the peace. It was about survival. Looking back, the signs were always there. I just didn't want to see them. I wanted so badly to believe in the life we were building. I ignored the cracks. But the truth was there, right under the surface, waiting. The dinner was at his parents' house. It was supposed to be a special evening. Everything was planned, fancy food, candles on the table, soft music playing in the background. I got ready carefully. I wore a dress his father had once said looked nice on me. I even brought a small gift for his mother, something thoughtful. I smiled, greeted everyone politely, and tried my best to keep things peaceful. At first, it seemed okay. Everyone was sitting, eating, and talking about small things, work, the weather, football. I didn't say much. I knew better by now. I just smiled and nodded when spoken to. Then it happened. I reached for my wine glass. It slipped through my fingers. I didn't mean to drop it. It wasn't loud at first, just a small clink, then the sound of the glass hitting the plate and falling. The red wine spilled forward, straight onto my father-in-law's white shirt. Everything stopped. The glass hit the floor and broke. I froze. I was about to say sorry, but I couldn't speak fast enough. He stood up, so suddenly the chair made a loud screech. His eyes were wide, face red, hands shaking. His voice cut through the room. "You clumsy girl. Do you know how much this shirt cost?" I opened my mouth to say something, but nothing came out. My hands were still in the air, useless. I looked at him, then at everyone else. No one moved. He kept yelling, "You don't respect anything. You come into my house, dressed like that, acting like you belong here. Look what you've done." I couldn't look at my husband. I was shaking, not from the wine, but from the way he was speaking to me. I felt like I had turned invisible. No one said a word. Then he stepped forward. He raised his hand and punched me straight in the mouth. It wasn't a push. It wasn't an accident. It was a full hit, hard and fast. My head jerked back. Pain exploded across my face. I tasted blood. My hands went to my mouth, and I just stood there. No one screamed. No one stood up. I looked at my husband. He sat still. He didn't move. His face was blank. Not shocked. Not angry. Just still. His mother looked down at her plate. His brothers were quiet. The room was full of people, but it felt completely empty. I could hear my own breathing. Nothing else. No one asked if I was okay. No one told him to stop. No one even looked surprised. I was standing there, bleeding, shaking, and silent. It felt like forever before I moved. My feet felt heavy. My eyes burned. My mouth was full of pain and shame. But I didn't cry. Not there. I just stood there, waiting, hoping someone would say something. But they didn't. The man who was supposed to protect me stayed silent. The people who watched it happen stayed silent. That was the moment something inside me broke. And nobody even noticed. I left their house that night without looking back. I didn't speak. I didn't wait. I just walked out, got in my car, and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't have a plan. I just needed to be away from all of them. I kept driving until I saw a small hotel. I pulled in, parked, and got a room for the night. Inside the room, everything felt quiet. Too quiet. I sat on the edge of the bed, still trying to understand what had just happened. My head was full of thoughts, but none of them made sense. I couldn't stop replaying everything in my mind. His voice, their silence, how no one stood up for me. I waited for him to call or message me, but nothing came. The next morning, I picked up my phone and saw a message from him. It was short. He didn't mean it. He just snapped, "You need to apologize." I stared at it for a long time. That was all he had to say. Not a single word asking if I was okay. Not a single word about what his father did. Just a message telling me to say sorry. Like I had caused the problem. Like I was the one who needed to fix it. I didn't know how to answer. I didn't answer. I just sat there with the phone in my hand, feeling like the ground under me wasn't solid anymore. I called a close friend and told her everything. She was shocked and furious. She said I should go to the police right away. She told me I had every right to press charges. That what happened wasn't just wrong. It was serious. She's a lawyer, so she knows what she's talking about. She said I had to protect myself. I thanked her, but I didn't move. I didn't go anywhere. I just stayed in that room, thinking. Her words made sense, but something inside me was still unsure. I kept thinking about him. I kept thinking about our life together. I didn't want to believe this was really happening. I started to doubt myself. I asked myself if I had made a big deal out of nothing. Maybe it really was a mistake. Maybe it wasn't meant to happen like that. Maybe I should have just stayed quiet. Maybe I was too sensitive. But then I'd remember how he didn't say anything when it happened. How he sat there and watched. How he chose to tell me to apologize instead of standing up for me. Even after all that, I missed him. I missed our home, our routine, the way things used to be. I kept checking my phone, hoping he would send something different, something kind, something real. But no more messages came. No one reached out. Not him. Not his parents. Not anyone from that house. And that silence told me everything I needed to know. I stayed in that hotel room, feeling like I was standing at the edge of something. One step forward meant everything would change. But I also knew, going back would mean losing myself completely. A few days passed. Still no real message from him, no apology, no visit. Then suddenly his tone changed. He didn't ask how I felt. He didn't talk about what had happened. Instead, he started blaming me. He said I was making things worse. That I was ruining the family. That I was making everyone look bad. I read his words again and again, hoping I had misunderstood. But I hadn't. He wasn't angry at what was done to me. He was angry at me for not forgetting it. He said I was holding on to one mistake and dragging the whole family down. Later, I got a message from his mother. It was short. Let's move on from this. Families fight sometimes. We should forgive and forget. That message hurt in a different way. I thought she might at least check on me, but she didn't. She just wanted everything to go back to normal. Like nothing happened. Like it wasn't serious. Like I should just smile and pretend it never happened. I waited, hoping maybe his father would reach out. Maybe he'd say something, even just a few words. But he never did. No apology. No message. Nothing. And that's when it hit me. They didn't see me as a real person. Not someone with feelings. Not someone they had hurt. I was just the one who caused trouble. The one who embarrassed their father. That was all they cared about. How things looked. Not how things were. I had spent years trying to fit into their family. I had smiled when I felt ignored. I had stayed quiet when I was hurt. I had told myself it would get better. But it never did. And now, after everything, I finally saw the truth. They never accepted me. They just tolerated me, as long as I stayed quiet. I couldn't carry that anymore. I called a therapist and booked a session. I didn't know what to say. I just knew I needed help. I needed to talk to someone who wasn't going to tell me I was overreacting. Someone who would listen. During my first session, the therapist asked me a question I wasn't ready for. She said, "What are you so afraid of losing?" I didn't answer right away. I didn't even know. I sat there in silence thinking, was it the marriage? The life we had built? The idea of being alone? Or maybe it was something deeper. Maybe I was afraid that if I walked away, it would mean everything I had believed in was never real. That question stayed in my mind long after the session ended. I thought about how many times I had said nothing just to keep peace. How many times I had put my own feelings last. How I had accepted so little and called it love. And now, when I finally said no, when I finally walked away, they were calling me dramatic. But this time, I wasn't going to let their voices drown mine out. I had been quiet long enough. I didn't know what would come next, but I knew one thing clearly now. They didn't see me. And I couldn't let myself disappear just to stay with them. I was tired of being blamed for someone else's wrong. I called my friend again, the one who is a lawyer. This time, I was ready to listen. I told her everything from the start. She stayed calm and asked me clear questions. She said I had every right to protect myself. What happened to me wasn't just wrong. It was against the law. She explained what I needed to do. She said the first step was to collect proof. So I started. I took photos of everything. I saved all the messages from my husband and his family. I wrote down the things they said to me. I kept every detail, even the small one. I didn't want to forget anything. I didn't want them to twist it later. It was hard. Every time I looked at the photos or read the messages, it hurt. But I kept going. I wasn't just doing this for myself anymore. I knew deep down this wasn't just about one bad moment. It was bigger than that. Something inside me changed. I stopped waiting for them to understand. I stopped hoping for them to say sorry. I started thinking clearly. I wasn't just planning to walk away. I was planning to speak up. I didn't want to be silent anymore. One night, I remembered something strange. A few years ago, not long after we got married, I met a woman who used to date my husband. We didn't talk much, just a quick hello at a wedding. But now, I kept thinking about the way she looked at me, like she wanted to say something but didn't. So I found her online and sent her a message. I didn't know if she would answer. I didn't even know what to ask. I just said I had been through something, and I didn't know if she had too. She answered the next day. Her message was long. She told me my father-in-law had grabbed her once, during a family trip. She said he touched her in a way that made her feel scared and small. She told my husband, and he didn't believe her. He told her she must have misunderstood. After that, everything changed, and they broke up. I sat there reading her words. My hands felt cold. Everything started to make sense. The way the family always protected the father. The way they blamed anyone who spoke up. It wasn't just me. It had happened before. Maybe even more times. I started to see a pattern. The same things over and over. Blame the woman. Protect the man. Stay silent. I told my friend what I had learned. She said it made my case even stronger. She told me I had power now. Real power. I wasn't just some angry wife. I had facts, proof, and a pattern that couldn't be ignored. For the first time in a long time, I felt strong. I had spent so long feeling small, scared, unsure. Now I was steady. I was ready. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about truth. It was about all the people who had been quiet before. I didn't know where this would lead, but I knew one thing. I wasn't afraid of them anymore. I knew I had to go back. Not to say sorry. Not to fix things. I went back to get the truth. I was calm, clear, and ready. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I just showed up at their house one afternoon, holding my phone in my bag, recording. I walked in and saw them sitting in the living room, my husband and his father. They looked surprised to see me, but not worried. My husband stood up and asked, "Are you finally ready to talk?" I didn't answer that. I just sat down and let them speak. His father leaned back in his chair like nothing had ever happened. He gave me a small smile and said, "It was just a moment. You pushed me too far. You made me do it." I didn't move. I didn't even blink. I kept my face still and let the words land. My phone was still recording in my bag. Every word. My husband nodded beside him and said, "She's just trying to trap us. That's what this is, right? She wants to destroy the family." They didn't ask how I felt. They didn't say sorry. They didn't take anything back. They didn't know what I was doing. They thought I had come to back down, to give in. But I hadn't. I stayed just long enough. I kept my voice calm. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just let them talk. When they were done, I stood up. I didn't say goodbye. I walked out and got in my car. I didn't look back. As soon as I was alone, I stopped the recording and sent it to my lawyer friend. She listened to it right away. Then she called me and said, "This is it. This is exactly what we needed." That recording was proof. Real, clear proof. Their own voices, their own words, telling the truth about what they had done and how they saw me. It wasn't my word against theirs anymore. I had evidence. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, relief. I didn't have to explain anymore. I didn't have to defend myself. I didn't need anyone to believe me just because I said so. I had the truth in my hands. Everything I had been feeling, everything I had been trying to explain, was there in that short conversation. They had shown their real selves, and I had caught it. No more hiding. No more silence. I sat in my car and took a deep breath. It was over. Not the whole fight, maybe, but the part where I doubted myself. That was done. They had said it all, thinking I was weak. But I wasn't weak. I was ready. The next step was clear. I wasn't just going to leave quietly. I was going to speak. I was going to make sure no one else went through what I did and felt alone. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. It was time to move forward. After sending the recording to my lawyer, we talked about what to do next. I had enough proof now. My lawyer explained how to file charges and what the process would look like. It wasn't easy, but I agreed. It had to be done. I wasn't just doing this for myself anymore. We started everything the right way, step by step. I gave her all the messages, photos, and the recording. She said I had a strong case. I felt nervous, but also calm. For the first time, I wasn't scared to speak up. Later that night, I sat in my room and opened my laptop. I wanted to tell people what had happened, but I didn't want anyone to know it was me. So I posted online. I used a fake name. I wrote everything, from the beginning to the end. I left nothing out. I didn't ask for help or advice. I just shared it all. The post spread fast. People started reading, sharing, and commenting. In just one day, it had thousands of views. Many said they believed me. Many said they were angry for me. Some even said they had lived through the same kind of pain. But what happened next surprised me more. Strangers started sending messages. Some were women. Some were men. They said they knew someone just like my father-in-law. A few even said they knew him. One woman said she was a cousin from another side of the family. She had stayed quiet for years, but said the same man had hurt her too, when she was a teenager. Another said she used to work with him and saw how badly he treated women in the office. She had quit because no one listened to her. One by one, stories came in. Each one made the picture clearer. This man had hurt many people, and everyone had stayed silent for so long. But now that silence was breaking. People who had known him for years were shocked. He had always acted like the proud father, the strong head of the family, the kind neighbor. But behind closed doors, he had been cruel. My post pulled away the mask. The community reacted fast. His name spread online. People started asking questions. Friends stopped calling him. Groups he was part of dropped him. Events where he used to be welcomed suddenly said he was no longer invited. His image was falling apart, piece by piece. My husband noticed everything, too. He tried to change the story. He made posts saying it was all lies. He said I was trying to ruin his family. But it didn't work. People shared screenshots. They shared the messages, the photos, the things he had said. No one believed him. He couldn't stop the truth. The more he spoke, the worse it got for him. Every time he tried to twist things, more facts came out. More people stood by me, and more people turned away from him and his family. I watched it all from a distance. I didn't say anything more. I didn't need to. Everything was out there now. Nothing could be hidden again. The truth had found its way into the light, and no one could cover it up. The divorce was final. I signed the last paper, and it felt like closing a heavy door behind me. There were no more court dates, no more back and forth. It was over. I didn't feel sad. I felt free. I also got a restraining order. It was something my lawyer helped with right after the charges were filed. I didn't want any contact with him or his family. I didn't want them near me, not even by accident. The order gave me peace. I could sleep without checking the windows. I could walk outside without looking over my shoulder. Once all of that was done, I packed my things and moved. I didn't tell many people where I was going, just close friends who had helped me. I found a small place in a quiet city. It wasn't far, but it felt like a whole new world. The air felt different. The people were kind. I didn't hear whispers or see judging eyes. I could walk around and just be a person. Starting over wasn't easy, but I didn't feel lost. I had a plan. With the help of my friends, I started a small business. It was something I had wanted to do for years, but never could. Back then, everything I did was questioned or controlled. Now, I made my own choices. My friends helped a lot. They gave advice, helped set things up, and reminded me that I could do this. Some even helped with small things like painting the shop or setting up a website. Every little bit mattered. I worked hard every day. There were challenges, of course. Some days I felt tired or unsure. But I kept going. I reminded myself why I left, why I spoke up, why I started again. This was my life now. Mine. As the days passed, I began to feel lighter. I smiled more. I laughed with people without forcing it. I walked down the street with music in my ears, feeling safe. There were moments when I stopped and thought, this is happiness. This is what peace feels like. I no longer carried shame or guilt. I no longer wondered if I had done the right thing. I had lived in silence for too long, always walking on eggshells, always trying to please people who never cared how I felt. That wasn't love. That wasn't family. When I thought back, I realized it was never just about that one moment at the dinner table. It was never just the hit or the shouting. It was everything before it. The years of small comments. The way they ignored my feelings. The way my husband stood beside his father, never me. That kind of pain doesn't come from one punch. It builds slowly, over time, in silence. Now, I speak when something hurts. I listen to my voice and trust it. I am not afraid of losing people who don't respect me. I finally understand what strength feels like. Not anger, not revenge, but calm, steady peace. I built a new life with truth, not fear. And every day, I wake up knowing I never have to go back. 6 months passed. My life had changed in so many ways. I was finally living for myself. I worked hard, made new friends, and started to feel normal again. I didn't think much about them anymore, my ex, his father, or the rest of that family. I had moved on. Then one day, I got a message from someone I hadn't spoken to in a long time. They said my ex-father-in-law had been arrested again. This time, he had hit someone else. A younger man at a store in public. There were witnesses. Police were called. He was taken in handcuffs. I sat there for a while after reading it. I didn't feel shocked. I didn't feel happy either. It just made sense. This was who he was. He hadn't changed. He never thought he needed to. I thought about what to do next. I didn't want to be part of anything messy, but I knew something had to be done. People in that town still respected him. Many still believed his family's lies. They had kept things hidden for years, making sure the outside world never saw the truth. So I took my old post, the one I had written anonymously months ago, and I sent it to a small news outlet near their town. No name, no extra notes. Just the link with the title, "You should see this." A few days later, it hit the news. Local reporters started digging. They found more people with stories. They found old co-workers, old neighbors, even old friends of the family who had seen things but never spoken up. It became a big deal. People who used to look up to him turned their backs. Some called for him to be removed from local boards and groups he was part of. His face was no longer welcome at public events. Then the news spread to where my ex-husband worked. Someone sent the article to his company. There were emails, screenshots, and proof that he had known what his father did and stayed quiet. He had even tried to stop me from talking. Soon after, I heard he lost his job. The company said they couldn't keep someone who helped cover up abuse. Just like that, his clean image was gone. His father's fall had taken him down too. I didn't say anything to anyone. I didn't post again or message anyone from that town. I stayed quiet and kept living my life. But inside, I knew what had happened. I hadn't just walked away. I hadn't just saved myself. I had pulled down everything they had built on lies, fear, and silence. They thought I would stay quiet forever. They thought I would disappear. But I didn't just leave. I took the whole rotten house down with me. She was told to apologize after being hit. She chose to walk away and rebuild. When no one stood by her, she stood for herself. Share this with someone who needs courage. True strength is quiet, but life-changing. Comment your thoughts and follow for more raw, real stories that matter.